Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome back to another fine episode of the JB Web Show. This week we interview an artist who is a very unique artist. He works with Origami, and, well, you'll just find out. It's Wesley Geometry. We are getting so close to our 100 episode mark, which we will be closing out our entire series at the end of the month of May. So thanks for hanging with us. You can check out everything we're doing at wjbwnetworks.com. Go check it out. For now, enjoy this. WJBW, Orlando, Florida. The first quasi-radio web show.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome back to the JB Web Show. You're sitting in on a special in-studio guest that we have this week for you, and he's a very unique, young, talented artist. He uses paper in an ancient and interesting way, and he is, again, unique. I can't even say anything else besides that. He uses, origami is his art. He's an origami artist. He's here in Orlando, Florida. His name is Wesley Geometry, and welcome, good sir. Welcome to our humble show here.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. What I think is awesome, and you're going to have to help describe your art a little bit, but what I think is awesome is you basically use different types of paper, and through sacred geometry and folding the paper in particular ways, you're able to create a variety of different things.
That's correct.
Which is amazing.
Thank you.
You are welcome. So, I always am curious about history and how'd you get involved in this. Nobody's really doing this today. So I have a lot of questions. So how'd you kind of first get introduced to this, or tell me some origins about the art that you do?
Well, when I was a kid, my friends and I in class would always fold paper airplanes.
Okay.
It was something that we just got into, and we'd have like competitions out on the recess grounds, and try to make the craziest paper airplanes. And,
right.
It became something that we would just do every day, and we'd get in trouble for it and whatnot. And I got to the point to where we had folded so many different things that we kind of came to a point where, like, what do we do now? And I was like, I wanted to have a one-up on my friend, so I was like, Mom, take me to the bookstore, please, 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 please. And went to the bookstore, and they didn't have any books on how to fold paper airplanes.
Okay.
Like you would think that they might have,
Right.
And this is before the internet.
Yeah.
I'm just, like 6 years old.
Okay.
And, but they had a book on origami.
Oh, wow.
They had model books about, like pop out the pieces and make a paper, and make an airplane. But
right.
I was so not interested in that, but they had a book with a paper crane on the front of it. And I was like, well, I want to fold a paper crane.
Okay.
That seems very interesting to me. And I was
That's
like,
pretty
I
cool.
want that instead,
Yeah.
And so I got that, and I taught myself, and my parents were just so fascinated that I'd taken a liking to something that was so
It's ancient,
unconventional in a way, because it's like, what other kids are wanting to learn this,
Okay, so from you're walking, you're talking, you're folding paper, getting in trouble, and then you channel it into something cool, or at least you found out.
Yeah.
Hey, I like this. I really enjoy this.
Yeah.
Do you find out about the culture and the history of it as well, and the mathematics behind it?
Well, as I went, my parents, they really liked what I was doing, so they would, get me more paper.
Okay.
They took me to the library and got more books on it, and I would, be, asking my dad for help, and he'd be walking me through the instructions. And I basically, I learned how to follow instructions really, really well, because if you can make your paper in your hands look like the models in the book, you're in the right direction. And these things kind of unlock themselves as you do it. And I just kept growing, I kept teaching myself, and I just kept having more and more fascination for it. And I got out of folding more organic shapes when I found out about geometric shapes, and how I could fold a series of units and then piece them together to create any shape that I wanted.
Wow.
And so I would fold, hundreds of pieces of the exact same thing, and then repiece them together to make anything I wanted, essentially.
Yeah.
And, from there I was like, well, this is all about the geometry of reality.
Right.
Everything is made of polygons, even at its, finest sense. You look at 3D animation, it's all polygons. You make organic shapes out of geometric shapes.
Right.
and that was just so fascinating to me. And I just kept going and kept going and kept going, and it was really never something that I thought about being my way of life. It was just something that I did. You know, through all the phases and stages of my life, it kept me centered. It kept me grounded. And, you know, I've burned so many pieces.
Okay, so it's more just, it sounds like you started when you were young. It's been kind of a hobby.
Yeah, in a way.
Okay, maybe an exercise for you.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just, for you, last few years maybe, kind of grew into something more.
Well, when I found out about tessellations...
What? Okay, so explain that to me.
I'd been traveling a lot around the country, and I had come back home to Seattle, and my dad's like, you need to watch this documentary. And it was Between the Folds. And I watched it, and I had seen all these people across the globe folding different types of origami. But one that really stuck out were people folding tessellations, or two-dimensional patterns that can repeat off into infinity.
Oh, I see now.
And all of that is folded out of essentially one piece of paper. And that is based off of, you know, ancient designs from like Morocco, from Portugal.
Right.
And that really, really intrigued me. And so I got a book on that and taught myself how to do that when I came down to Florida from Seattle, and I've been on that ever since.
Okay, so wow. So that's really what kind of inspired you to do what you do now, which is make these incredible connected pieces into something like a lamp.
Yeah.
Shade. You know, that hangs. So it's a hanging piece of art with light in there. You make beautiful roses. You bracelets. I mean, the list goes on, and it's like mind-boggling to think of everything that you can do with this. So, what are some of the things that you maybe would look at like a challenge to make? Where do you think this art can lead you into making, you know, full sculptures?
Oh, of course, but really, what I love about what I do is it's all brought me to a sense that anything is possible. Yeah. And what the hardest thing was going from the stage of my life where I was like, well, this is something that I do just for me, towards something that this is something that I can do to benefit humanity or my community, you know, as a whole, because it's hard to feel like it's worth something when it's so abstract. You know, how does this have a purpose? And I've always strived to apply it in different ways. Like, I'm learning all these things, I'm teaching myself all these things. How does it apply to reality? Right. How does it apply to my community? Right. And I've always strived to find function through the forms that I create, which has led me to create things like the sacred G in the bracelets. You know, I will fold a tessellation out of elephant hide paper, and the paper is so strong that I can then turn and dye it with special dyes that make it completely waterproof. Okay. And then that paper can then be sewn into my leather work.
That's
and then be worn. And then people are like, well, it's paper, is that just going to fall apart? I'm like, that's what you think. But, you know, awesome. You in turn have a piece of art that will age, that will, you know...
It's durable,
you know,
it's wearable.
It has archivability, you know, because the paper is so strong.
It's functional in the lamps and the covers and...
Yeah.
And even book covers. You make an iPad cover for me?
No, anything you want.
That's awesome. See, and that's the cool part about it, is that, you know, you're right, the possibilities for it are just endless. So what are some of the favorite things that you've worked on recently? You know, I know recently we had Valentine's Day, and you're like all of a sudden you got these flowers that are never going to die for people.
Yeah, for everlasting flowers.
And it's you folding paper. And what kind of paper is that? What is that a special?
That's a special type of paper using a technique of dyeing. It's like Japanese tie-dye.
Okay.
It's called shiburazome.
Oh.
And the type of paper that it is, it's very fluffy.
Right.
It's very napkin-like in a way, so it creates very organic petals.
Real looking.
Yeah. So I get a photorealism that isn't possible with other forms of paper.
It's really amazing, and we're streaming, you know, images of your work and everything that you've done. So where is there anything that you see with this that uses facial imagery? Have you been able to kind of you know, concentrate on maybe making someone's face out of this in regard to you know, how your art kind of moves forward, or do you see kind of moving into more of a large scale mosaic type of thing? I mean, where do you want to take this art?
As far as it can go.
As far as it...
For me, I always learn more about my path with the more that I do fold. And getting into it and feeling like I'm good at this in my own right. I'm not just somebody who's replicating these things from other people's designs.
Right.
The hard part was seeing people that I admire in this craft, but never knowing anybody who can show me anything new. I'm having to, tear apart and reverse engineer in my mind the things that I see. And the hard part is feeling like I can do this. That I can rise to the occasion and create something unique from what I'm doing that not necessarily is based off of someone else's art, but is inspired by their art. So the people that I look up to, there are people in this world who do fold tessellated masks and faces. There are people in this world who do fold things that I aspire to create something.
Well, like a replica of the Mona Lisa or something.
Yeah.
People kind of do that. Okay.
But the way that they do it is just, it's so profound to me that it's the overcoming obstacle is to get to a point where I feel that I look up to them, but that I'm capable of creating something that is just as unique. So I see them as an inspiring peer.
Inspirational.
Instead of somebody that, I will never be that good. Right. And I have to tell myself that I am that good right now.
Right.
Because I've been folding.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, and that brings me to a good question. It's amazing the work that you do. So, I mean, is a lot of it math based? Are you like some kind of math savant? Where does it come from? Is it just the patience and learning? You mentioned earlier you follow instructions well. Is that just knowing, hey, this sequence makes this, and then from that I know how to make this? I mean, or are crazy calculations about bouncing around in your head, or maybe a little of both? I don't know.
What I do, I don't measure anything. I cut out my paper in the size that I think I want it to be. Okay. And then it folds on itself to create a grid. And then the grid is the construct of the pattern that I want to fold. And so, whether I fold, an equilateral triangle grid or a square grid, or any combination of whatever I want, I can then see how this grid creates hinges in the paper, and then the hinges can then make other they fold on themselves to create the patterns that I want, and then through folding small pieces of the pattern, the paper wants to relax in other parts, but it can't.
Right.
And so then it flexes and moves and contorts in different ways, and then I see things that just want to come out, and then I follow that. And so there's just really not enough hours in the day. I don't have enough hands to just do it all. Because I'll be in the moment. I'm like, well, I got to get this done. Right. And then I'll see, I really want to fold that next. And then it's this huge growing process, where I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly evolving.
That's beautiful.
And it's really pushing my perception of reality into new heights.
Well, your work is amazing, and I haven't really seen anything like it.
Thank you.
Or you're quite welcome. Or known anyone. So we're fortunate enough to meet up with you weeks ago, a little while ago. Some of your work you can see at Snap Orlando. Your cool lamp there. People interacted with you there as well. And we've got a website, and we'll throw that information. You've got great Instagram pictures, so people can connect with you through there. But I would really think that the flowers, for somebody who understands anything about relationships, that's an awesome gift to give to somebody you love. Whether it's a man, a woman, it doesn't matter. That is a beautiful gift, and it says a lot. It's definitely something that you're not going to find in a store. Necessarily.
Not yet.
No, not yet. Not yet. But for you, what being kind of new at being kind of, hey, I'm doing this professionally. I'm doing this for my profession. This is my art. This is my
passion.
This is my passion. Yeah. Where do you see yourself moving into? Maybe like we just talked about, hey, I'm going to be able to have a mass production of this type of thing, or would you always prefer to keep it intimate? So, if robots could fold the paper.
Well, essentially, there are parts of my work that I wish I could automate.
Right.
Like folding grids. Is like if I had a whole room full of elves just sitting and folding grids all day, then I would have an infinite amount of time to just sit and fold patterns that I think of. But for me, the meditation part comes from folding the grid. Okay. And so it's a necessary part of my work that I do enjoy, although I do find it somewhat repetitive and and boring sometimes, but it's so healthy for me to keep my mind in a spot to where I can create the patterns that I see. because it washes away all the debris that might get in the way of it.
It's beautiful.
But I see it going to places where I never thought it would ever apply. You know, and being a video student, I really enjoyed, you know, the light classes and the lighting classes that I took, and how do I blend these two worlds together, you know?
Right.
And in the world of, you know, performances and festivals and whatnot, everybody's doing video mapping these days,
right.
And everyone's trying to find new surfaces to map on. And I love folding large scale origami out of, you know, multiple geometric shapes, as well as, you know, my super intricate tessellations, you know. But that's a whole, it's like micro and macro.
Right.
So I can then fold a large scale surface. Like I could, you know, fold enough pieces to cover a wall or a building if I wanted to, and then you could map onto that.
Right.
So then therefore is an application that I never thought about before,
Oh,
but then has come about just based off of, you know, my own experiences and my education, and I'm applying it in ways that it all comes full circle.
Well, you're full circle. Well, you're an amazing artist. You're highly talented, Wesley, man. We're throwing up the way on the video portion of this that people can get in touch with you and connect with you. Your work is beautiful, and to hear that it comes from a place of you know, love and discipline for your craft is fantastic. Yeah, it gets repetitive. Yeah, it gets boring. But you're a true artist, and you're definitely doing something highly unique. So I'm so happy that you came to the studios, and we got a chance to talk with you in person, man. I really appreciate it. Well, it's my pleasure. Listen, JB Webb here chatting with Wesley Geometry. Go check out this guy's stuff. He is amazing. He is very approachable as well. So if you have some custom things in mind or some cool stuff in mind or some great collaborations, he's here. He's in Orlando, and we're fortunate and happy to have him in our art community. And I'm JB Webb. We'll close out this episode. We'll throw up all the information so you can go check out and connect with Wesley Geometry. I'm JB Webb. You're watching the JB Webb Show. Stay geometric.